do something like this.
Kathy Gazda, TV10 Action News in Waterville East.
The controversy over America was brought right to our doorsteps this afternoon. What was supposed to be a major demonstration outside our studios ended up with just 2 members of a coalition making known their opposition to the fictionalized account of the U.S. being taken over by the Soviets. Earlier, at a better-attended news conference, protesters proclaimed America was a blatant effort to get support for Ronald Reagan's Star Wars defense programs. The Soviets were the target of protesters in New York City. Relatives and friends of Yosef Begun gathered in front of the Soviet mission to the United Nations, demanding that the dissident be allowed to emigrate. 14 of the demonstrators were arrested by police after they blocked the street in front of the mission. All are charged with disorderly conduct.
Meanwhile, back in the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev spoke to an international forum on human rights. In his speech, the Soviet leader renewed his attack on the American Star Wars defense plan. He said it will increase chances of an accidental war. Gorbachev said there are changes underway in Soviet society, a new thinking and a new approach to human rights.
And I must disappoint those who think that this has been the result of pressure on us from the West, that we wish to gain somebody's fancy in pursuit of some ulterior motives.
From Mrs. Gorbachev to Yoko Ono, most of the public figures in attendance were impressed. There has been no official reaction from the White House to the speech. He's charged with running Nazi gas chambers that claimed the lives of 850,000 Jews. His name is John Demjanjuk, and the trial of the retired Ohio automaker began in Israel today. Dean Reynolds reports.
The former Cleveland auto worker was outwardly spirited as he arrived at court, shouting good morning in Hebrew to the packed galleries on hand for the first Nazi war crimes trial here in a quarter century. The 66-year-old Demjanjuk, a former Soviet soldier from the Ukraine, is accused of killing some 850,000 Jews at the Treblinka concentration camp in Poland, accused of enthusiastic collaboration with the Nazis.
He stands before you because he stands accused of the most terrible crimes ever committed in the course of history.
The prosecution says Demjanjuk was known as Ivan the Terrible.
He actually had a hand in pushing and shoving hundreds of thousands of victims before they went into the gas chamber.
For some in attendance, the trial reawakened the agony of the past. I was there, shouted this man, as he accused Demjanjuk of killing his entire family. Central to this case is this photo on a 1951 immigration form and this ID card supplied by the Soviets from the Treblinka camp files. The prosecution says both pictures showed John Demjanjuk, Nazi collaborator. Demjanjuk faces a trial that will last for weeks. His life is on the line. If convicted, he could get the death penalty. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Jerusalem.
To the north of Israel, Shiite Muslim militiamen are threatening to block further shipments of much-needed food and medical supplies to the besieged Palestinian refugee camp. The militiamen fired mortars, machine guns, and rocket-propelled grenades at the camp in the latest fighting in Beirut. There is a new development to report tonight regarding who is in charge of the Contras, who, with American help, are trying to overthrow the government of Nicaragua. Adolfo Calero, one of 3 directors of the United Nicaraguan Opposition, has announced his resignation from the UNO, which is the political arm of the Contras.
I have said very clearly that I am leaving for the sake of unity and nationalist spirit.
He's in command.
Calero is giving up only his political post, not command of some 10,000 Contra fighters. No matter, his political foes are pleased with his decision.
This is very positive to everyone. They should see this as the best alternative to keep on receiving the aid needed for the military struggle.
It is still a mystery whether Calero's decision will bring unity or whether it's just the latest chapter of infighting and division within the Contra forces.
When we come back, a big address tonight from Governor Cuomo that sounds like one you'd hear on the campaign for the White House.
And 50 people left homeless from a destructive fire try to pick up the pieces.
Tonight's Action News is brought to you by H&R Block.
Governor Cuomo tonight delivered his biggest political speech since he gave the keynote address at the Democratic Convention in 1984. Addressing an audience at Tulane University in New Orleans, Cuomo called for the nation to change its direction after 1988. The governor, in his speech, sure to prompt more talk about the governor's possible run for president, said that to move straight ahead would be to move toward an ever-escalating arms race that saps our economy of the wealth and productivity we need. This was Cuomo's first trip to the Deep South since he said he was considering a run for the White House, Marci.
Well, Dick, the man that Mario Cuomo would have to beat for the Democratic nomination was out campaigning in the state where the nation's first primary will be held. We refer, of course, to Gary Hart, who is out looking for some early support in New Hampshire. The former Colorado senator says he is looking forward to a prospective White House race against Vice President George Bush. But if the results of a presidential poll from Iowa prove to be true, Hart may be facing a different opponent. Iowa is the scene of the nation's first presidential caucuses, and a new poll done by the Des Moines Register newspaper shows Bush trailing Robert Dole by 5 percentage points, with several others, including Congressman Jack Kemp, far behind. Now, on the Democratic side, the poll shows Hart with a big lead over Mario Cuomo, 59% to 14%. Jesse Jackson collects 5%.
An outbreak of measles on the SUNY Albany campus is causing some trouble. 4 students came down with a highly contagious disease, and now university and health department workers are reviewing nearly 15,000 records trying to identify those who are susceptible to measles.
Each student will be notified by Wednesday morning whether their records are adequate for immunization or whether they need to take further action to demonstrate that immunity or to be immunized.
University officials have canceled intercollegiate sports in an effort to stop the spread of the disease. The university has also curtailed other large gatherings. Only students, faculty, and staff will be allowed to attend the Martin Luther King Day award ceremony planned for tomorrow. Infants exposed to loud noises could be in for some major health problems. Recent studies suggest such newborns may be particularly vulnerable to inner ear damage, and that could lead to the loss of some brain cells. Dr. Edwin Rubel of Chicago recommends that pregnant women avoid continuous loud noises in the last 3 months of pregnancy.
Some of the 50 people burned out of their homes this weekend in Albany returned to the scene looking for whatever belongings they could salvage.
I lost everything in there. Just about what the beds, the furniture, and, things that I work for, I lost.
The 3-alarm fire spread to 5 houses on West Street, and authorities are blaming the owner of the houses for accidentally starting the fire. Officials say the blaze ignited after Ali Khan used a blowtorch to thaw the frozen pipes. While the fire burned, Khan was at another house ready to thaw the pipes. That's when police and fire officials caught up with him. Frozen pipes are common when the temperature drops so low. Plumbing companies say don't use a blowtorch, use a hairdryer, or call a plumber who's equipped with a heat gun.
Still to come, Arnie tells us how long we have to put up with this deep freeze.
And what you don't see at the gas pumps could hurt you. So keep it right here for our Nightcast Extra.
How are your antique cars holding up to the cold?
Well, one of them you put a crank on the front, you move it a little bit, nothing happens because it doesn't need a crank, and then you just kind of kick the battery and still nothing happens. So you wait till spring.
Yeah. And the other one stays in the garage, yeah. We're not using them for a while.
That's it.
We're going to be using the cars, though, our cars, the modern ones, for a while because the temperatures are not going to be extremely cold. I think we're going to find things starting to moderate over the course of the upcoming week. Nothing like it was this past weekend, so that means the wind chill factor is not going to be a big factor over the next few days. Let's take a look at what today turned out to be with all the sunshine around. The temperature not as bad as the single digits over the weekend. 16 degrees was this afternoon's high, 6 below zero. That was the start earlier on this morning, running well below the normals of 33 and 14. And we could see some ice skating going on this evening at Swinburne Park in Albany. Mainly clear skies at the Albany County Airport right now with 3 degrees around, the humidity at 75%. Barometer is currently on the rise, northerly winds at 5 miles per hour, and no precipitation around. Other temperatures around the area look like so. Very cold up to the north of us. That's where the readings are generally going to be about 15 below as we wake up tomorrow morning around the Glens Falls area. There's 7 below at the moment. To the east of us, colder as well. Up at Watertown, New York, 9 below. Temperatures moderate a bit as you get toward the water areas of Erie, Pennsylvania, where it's 20 degrees at the moment. Take a look at some of those lows by morning. Everyone in the Capital District going below the 0 mark by morning. 0 to 10 above for most of us, but as you get further to the north, there will be those pockets like Glens Falls and some of those interior valleys in southern Vermont and western Massachusetts where there could go as low as 15 below zero. So we have another very chilly night. But again, the wind is not a big factor, so there's really not too much worry in terms of wind chill tonight. Here are the nation's top numbers. Watertown, 8 degrees. That was the best we could do in the country for a daytime high up there. Meanwhile, the high temperature in the nation down at West Palm Beach, they were doing it all month long, really, down there in southern Florida. 86 this afternoon, and in between the cold and the hot, that is where we find a big storm system, and it has created quite a bit of havoc across the mid-Atlantic region. There are the storms themselves tracking slowly toward the east. They've given 6 inches of snow to Beckley, West Virginia, 6 inches as well at Giles, Virginia. All of the state of North Carolina, 1 to 2 inches of ice already. They'll get another inch before the night is over, and maybe a little bit of snow on top of that. So overall, we are much better off than what's happening further down to the south of us. For us, the upper-level jet stream comes in from the north and west, keeps high pressure in control, so we stay sunny for the next several days, and daytime highs, not excessively cold, will eventually work our way into the 20s, and the wind is not going to be as big a factor as it was during the course of the weekend. Here are the details coming up for tonight. Clear skies, temperatures in general around 0 to 10 below with a few colder spots. For tomorrow, sunny, staying cold up to about 20 degrees by afternoon. And then as we move into Wednesday, we'll call it a bit warmer, considering how it has been. Sunshine around up to about 20 to 25. To the north and east, clear as much as 15 below zero tonight. Middle teens tomorrow with plenty of sunshine around. And the end of the week does not look bad at all. I'm calling for a lot of sunshine, Dick. And as we get into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, going into the upper 20s.
Oh, I like that. In the meantime, here's something none of us would have thought about. You may be harming the air as well as yourself every time you put gas in your car. Technology exists that could tackle the problem, but our Nightcast Extra reports that special interest concerns have stalled its use in many parts of the country.
More than a third of all Americans live in cities with high levels of air pollution. Under the Clean Air Act, states have until the end of 1987 to reduce pollution levels. But the Environmental Protection Agency is already admitting many states will not meet the deadline. One reason is that little has been done to limit vapors from gasoline pumps. In large cities, about 15 tons of fumes escape from gas nozzles every day. Dr. Peter Infante, an occupational safety and health scientist, showed us study after study linking gas vapors with serious diseases.
Should consumers be concerned about pumping their own gas?
Well, yes, I think they should be concerned about pumping their own gasoline because we know that gasoline vapor causes cancer in experimental animals. We know that gasoline contains up to 2% benzene, which is known to cause leukemia in people.
But gasoline vapors can be trapped by these accordion-like nozzles, which send fumes back into the tanks. The vapor lock nozzles are now required at gas stations in Washington, D.C., St. Louis, and most of California.
The recovery of these vapors is a conservational resource that otherwise will be lost, and our estimates of how much gasoline is saved through this system is quite substantial.
Service stations and the oil industry oppose the vapor lock nozzles. They say it would cost about $3.5 billion to install them nationwide, a cost that would be passed on to the consumer. The oil industry would rather have vapor recovery systems installed on cars. But automakers are fighting that idea, saying it could add $120 to the price of an average car. While no immediate solution is in sight, there are some things that you can do in the meantime to limit your exposure to gasoline vapors. Experts say stand upwind while pumping gas. Don't top off the tank, because spilled gasoline releases harmful vapors. And keep children away from the pump. This is Roberta Baskin reporting.
You should also be careful not to get gas on your hands when filling your tank because the benzene in gasoline can be absorbed through the skin.
Well, ahead on Nightcast, Dr. J gets his way with the Knicks tonight and has the story in actions for us.
Plus, highlights from the Big East as the Wildcats try to claw out a win against Syracuse.
How else can you put this? The Knicks are simply pathetic.
They really are. I mean, they're sad to watch. Awful. Pathetic is a good word, Marcy. You know, at this rate, the fans are going to want Hubie Brown to come back. New York tonight dropped their 4th in a row. They've lost 13 of their last 16. It wasn't pretty tonight. Off the turnover, here come the Sixers, and that's Julius Erving with the jam. He later left the game, strangely enough, with a jammed finger. How bad was it? Watch this. Barkley with the rebound gets the ball ahead to Cheeks, who makes a great save. Out to Tim McCormick. Shot won't go. There's Barkley to finish off the play. Now, one more. Watch Barkley here toying with Patrick Ewing. Philly wins it 111-101. College basketball now in the Big East. It's number 9 Syracuse at Villanova, and that is Sherman Douglas there with the steal to Derek Coleman for the jam. But Villanova comes on strong. Mark Plansky wide open here for 2. He helps the Wildcats build a 15-point lead. But Jimmy Boeheim has an idea, and it works. Sherman Douglas for 3. Douglas, the key to the comeback for the Orange tonight. He gets 19 of his 27 in the second half, and now the Orangemen pull away, and they beat Villanova by a final score of 96-82. From the Garden, it's St. John's and Fairleigh Dickinson, and that's Mark Jackson with the steal. He does everything but score this time down. Willie Glass, though, takes care of that. These two took care of business all through this game. Jackson forces the turnover, gives to Glass. What a show he put on. Shades of Michael Jordan. One more time. Jackson again making things happen, comes away with the ball here. This time he goes coast to coast. St. John's wins, but not by much, 63-59. A couple of other top 20 games. Indiana trails Wisconsin by 4 late in the second half. The Badgers looking for their second win in the Big Ten this year, and DePaul beat Monmouth. No surprise there. That measles outbreak at Albany State means big problems for Great Dane basketball. In fact, Albany State may not make the conference playoffs because of it. The Danes needed a win over Plattsburgh this weekend to qualify, but because of the measles, the game won't be played this weekend, and they may not be able to reschedule it. Now, that's a bad break. Speaking of basketball, Union won tonight at Binghamton, 94-83. Skidmore and St. Rose both lost. North Adams won, and in high school action, Greenville and Cobleskill won tonight. Now from the NHL, Boston at Montreal, things get ugly. Montreal's resident goon, Chris Nyland, sends Rick Middleton head first into the boards. He suffered a possible concussion, maybe a fractured skull. Well, Jay Miller, the thug for the Bruins, goes after Nyland. Revenge on his mind, but it's Nyland who pretty much has the upper hand in this fight. And Montreal, in fact, pretty much had the upper hand in this game. They beat the Bruins 7-3. Finally, Don Mattingly of the Yankees went before the arbitrator today. He's looking for a little less than $2 million for the coming year. The decision comes tomorrow. Dwight Gooden of the Mets, meanwhile, who struggled through what was, for him, a subpar season, decided against arbitration at the last minute when the Mets raised their offer to $1.5 million. I guess he can get by on that, Marcy.
I don't think we should cheer for him.
No, I'd just take the half. I'd take a tenth of the half.
I would take a fifth of a half.
It doesn't take much to make me happy.
No, it doesn't, does it? Thank you. Finally, tonight, a story that may drive you to the refrigerator for a late-night snack. The annual Great American Chocolate Festival is underway, and the main attraction is a 9-foot-high chocolate cake. It is the creation of a former White House chef to honor the Hershey Company's 93rd anniversary in the cocoa business. It took 3 weeks to bake this delicious delight. Just think of how many folks you could feed at a party with this. No trouble with folks asking for seconds.
Arnie and I tried that. They wouldn't see us till spring. Oh, that does it for this edition of Nightcast. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Coming up next on Nightline, a special one-hour edition, television Soviet style, and this reminder to catch John McLaughlin's special reports at 6 o'clock on the storm over America. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tonight's Action News is brought to you by H&R Block. TV10 Action News, honored as the best regularly scheduled local news by the Associated Press broadcasters of New York State.